It is the Ed Conroy Show, and we are thrilled to have you here. We're back at El Jefe here on Monday nights, 468 King Street here in Charleston. It's great to have all of you with us for the Ed Conroy Show. And, Coach, it's great to be here with you. Of course, this show presented by Cutwater Spirits. A lot of dignitaries, a lot of folks wearing Citadel Blue. They're in the building. And it's always nice to sit here and get together and congregate and talk basketball after a win.
Oh, no question. Especially, and then you throw in the fact that it was VMI and fun to be here. But these shows, I encourage everybody listening or hearing about them to come on out. We have a great time, and appreciate Roy Neal and El Jefe sponsoring us here. Expect a great crowd here tonight.
Before we go too far into it, I just wanted to drop a quick condolence in there because I know you were well acquainted with him too. The Sport lost Lefty Drizel a couple of days ago. Another of those guys of many that was kind of a giant in the sport, many years at Maryland, certainly, many years, reinvented things at Georgia State. And just how well did you know Lefty? And obviously, his mark on the game is a lasting one.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously Chuck Drizel, one of our former coaches and part of our family. So we send out our condolences to everybody there. And I know that his father came down several times and enjoyed coming down to the Citadel. But, Chuck was, he's one of us. And so we're hurting for him and the family. But, just from a basketball coaching standpoint, his dad, he was a giant. He was a giant in the game. There was no question. And really his years at Maryland. But then I can remember competing against him when he was at James Madison and other places. And everywhere he went, he brought success. I know John Hartwell, another one of our former players, was an associate AD at Georgia State when he was there and kind of was in charge of basketball. And so just a lot of ties to him, and certainly a guy that was innovative, creative, intense, and just always thinking outside the box. Had a tremendous effect on the promotion of the game, Midnight Madness, a lot of innovations like that. And but terrific for our game, and we'll miss him.
I had the opportunity to get to know him a little after his career coaching-wise when he was still very much involved in kind of a vocal supporter at Georgia State, but it was after his coaching days. And I think that the kind of guy he was and how welcoming and what an unbelievable person he was is the mark that he left on somebody like me.
No question. He had a way of relating to, and that's what made him such a fantastic recruiter, whether he was, working at, wherever he was. He just was, he could, players and people, gravitated toward him because he was just that type of a personality and fun to be around.
Well, let's move now to what's happened on the floor. And again, we talked about it at the top of the show. It's hard to beat coming off a win, especially one against VMI. You got off to a good start in that game, let them back in the game a little bit prior to the half, and then really kind of stood on the gas and put the game away after the break.
No, I was really proud of our guys. I worked them hard in practice. I was actually a little worried leaving the practice floor Friday that maybe we were out there a little too long for this time of year. We talked about that on the last radio show about pacing guys for the season, but I really pushed them. I wanted them to come out and have a great defensive effort. I think we're getting better on the defensive end, and I wanted them to show that off. And I thought from start to finish we had great intensity. We ended up, at the end of the day, it's amazing, but largest margin of victory, I believe, in 52 years against VMI. I think you have to go back to the early 70s, late 60s before we beat them. We beat them by 25 or whatever it was, and we held them to the fewest amount of points. I think, might be wrong on this, but I think since the Musselman era in a win. So that's going back to Norm Sloan in the 50s. So that's 70 years, and then individually, Elijah Morgan, who was on the show last week, and he ends up getting the all-time single-game steals record, and with 9 steals in the game. And I showed a lot of those steals today and how they were a team effort. I thought our guys did a better job of being physical. Young guys don't realize how physical the game is in college, and I thought they. We sometimes refer to it as fouling with your chest. Show your hands to the official, but make sure you make contact. And the one play that really stood out to me was there was an out-of-bounds play in front of our bench in the first half, and we were physical with them right from the start. The referee warned us a couple times about getting our hands off them. Our guys were okay, took their hands off, put them right back on, and we ended up getting a 5-second call. We got a turnover out of it, and I thought to myself, okay, that's a group of guys learning how to make competitive adjustments and be physical and impose their will a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because defensively you actually had both a 5 and a 10-second call in that ball game at one point or the other. So defense, you were swarming them pretty well. Anytime you can create turnovers and extra possessions that way, you're really playing good defense.
I was a little bit, I really don't like when we turn that basketball over. I don't react real well to that. I want us to play smarter, but more importantly, play hard. And I think they committed close to 20 turnovers or somewhere around there, and our guys played really, really hard. So when you're doing that, it's a lot easier to accept a few mistakes on the offensive end. And I loved the energy in the building. I thought the core was fantastic. I thought all year long, I thought our season ticket holders and that side has been great. And our guys, I thought they really responded and gave a great effort. And that just says something about their character. With going through the season we're going through, to come out there and play that hard, I thought that was fantastic.
You were talking a little bit ago about, the dynamic of, do I practice them really hard here or do I back off? And that's kind of a judgment call you have to make when you get to this time of year, isn't it? Because, you've been grinding. Obviously, guys are beat up. It's the nature of the sport. You're grinding along, and you kind of have to know as a coach when to step on the gas and when to pull back on it a little.
You really do, and it's an art. It's not a science. You have to read your team, and it's a tough call. One that keeps you up at night, to be honest with you, like exactly how hard do we go. And I just kind of poured my heart out to the team on Thursday, and really I just kind of told them, I said, look, most of you know me pretty well. We spend a lot of time together, but if you know me at all, like I'm just not the type of guy to come in today. I know you guys are tired. I know you need a little break. I know you need a little, just fun with the season, if you will.
Right.
But I'm just not the type of guy to come in here today and play wiffle ball. Like, a lot of guys you'll see, they play dodgeball, wiffle ball, do something, and there is a time for it, no question. And I told him, I said, you know what, that day may be next week. But today, we got to work. We got to go earn what we're going to earn on Saturday. And I pushed them really hard Thursday and probably pushed them too hard on Friday, to be honest with you. I was a little bit I got some guys in the game early. I was a little worried about our legs. And maybe that was toward the end of the first half where we kind of had a little bit of a lull. But I just wasn't going to go down without, just the work ethic part of it.
Reading some of the quotes after the game, A.J. Smith, who, by the way, will join us in a little bit. He'll be here tonight. But he had 19 for you. And A.J., one of the points that he made in the stories I read, Andrew Miller's piece after the game, was that he actually responded very favorably to that. He wanted to be pushed right there.
Yeah, no, I think that's the type of guys we have. And you hope they take on the personality of the coach, not because it's an ego type thing, but like when you go out and recruit and you want, that's where chemistry and understanding comes from. And I want to be honest with them and say we're going to work today, and when Saturday comes and we're exhausted, it's going to feel really good with that victory. And they responded. AJ was terrific. I thought it was one of his best defensive efforts. When you see A.J. getting those defensive rebounds, you think back to all of our really good performances. Right. Notre Dame, he was a monster on the defensive boards. The Mercer game that we won, he was all over the place defensive boards. This game, I think he had 9 defensive rebounds.
Yeah.
Man, it's just a heck of an effort for a guard to come back and be that physical. We know he's been hurting with that shoulder and all that. For him to put that on the line for the Citadel and his body that way, that's been inspirational in my opinion, and it was great to see. I had special guests. I had Kevin Higgins back in town sitting on the bench, and that was one of the first things he said to me. He said, wow. He said he could see him in the locker room going through the agony of getting ready for the game.
Right.
He saw how hurting he was after the game. But yet during the game, there was not a flinch. He went and did not avoid any contact all night long, and it really impressed him.
Well, AJ's kind of led your team in scoring really the entire year, and obviously has been such a key guy. And when things did go kind of poorly, it had as much to do with him not being in there as others, where he was banged up a little. Of course, all that stuff is part of the game. I'd love to get your thoughts on his progress from the time he walked on campus to where he is now, about to complete his second season here, because he's really been fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize his story, but AJ's a fantastic young man. Basically a 4.0 student, just a brilliant future ahead of him, bright future ahead of him, because he is such a high character guy and such a bright guy. But then he comes to us, and he's a highly valued recruit. When I got the job, he was one of our first targets, and everybody knew of him, wanted him. He chose, and his parents, they chose the Citadel for the things that we talk about in recruiting and we stand for. And he said he wanted to be a part of that, and turned down a lot of potential offers. Comes here, and I think I might be a little bit off on this, but I think he averaged close to 3 points a game as a freshman.
Yeah.
It did not come easy for him. So you're a highly touted recruit. Things don't exactly go your way as a freshman, and he stuck with the process, and he improved his 3-point shot, as much as any player I've ever had in one summer. Right now, he's a really dangerous three-point shooter. He's improved his feel for the game, his knowledge for the game. He's going from 3 points a game to probably close to 16 points a game. That's an incredible jump from freshman to sophomore year. But he's a guy that absolutely, he's up in my office every night. We're talking basketball. He loves the game of basketball, and it shows in his play.
As close as these games and as agonizing and just not quite getting there as so many of these games have been, that'd be a huge lift to get over the top again, and not just do so, but do so convincingly and go out there and put your foot down and stand on the gas and beat somebody up.
We talked about this on the show. Every half for us, because of our physicality and the way we play and who we have, we need to really have intentionality about getting to the free throw line, touching the paint, getting the ball inside. And we've had probably now 14 or 15 halves where we have really imposed our will throughout the season on Division I teams. It hasn't happened much in Citadel history, and it doesn't happen much in college basketball. But we have had, you go back and look, and we've had numerous halves where we're 46-30 or 45-28.
Right.
Like, that is tough to do in a half of basketball. And we did it again against VMI. I thought we could have done it in the first half. We didn't play as smart as we needed to the last 4 minutes. Got a little careless with the basketball, but the fact that this team can do that, if we can find consistency in that, feel confident against anybody we play.
And most of the guys on the team that I've communicated and had any dialogue with about the first meeting up at VMI, and it's not a slight to the opponent, but all of them, to a man, felt like they were the better team. They were let down with the way that they played that day. You guys struggled from the perimeter against them. How much added there's always the revenge element, whatever in sports, and especially in a rivalry, but how much did that play a part, that previous game, and their own disappointment in themselves in going out there and making a statement in this one?
Well, our guys, you can ask AJ about this later, but I didn't write anything on the board before the game. I knew I didn't need to. It's just a pride factor. We were 1 of 18 from 3 up there.
Right.
We couldn't make shots. We took quick shots. We didn't play smart. They had a great home crowd. Coach does a great job with their team, so they always do a really good job of getting you out of the rhythm defensively. So credit them, but we just didn't think we played our best. And I truly didn't write anything. You can ask about it. Christian Moore, one of our freshmen who's hurt right now that we really miss. He wrote on the board before I came in there, and what he wrote was really true, and so I left it alone, and I didn't write anything on the board, which I always do.
Is it something you can share, or is it something you can't?
No, I can share it. Probably it'd be great to ask AJ about it. So ask him about it. But if he doesn't, I'll come back on and share it with you.
All right.
It wasn't anything that you can't share, and it was really true. But it was simple, and it's simple and true. And I think our pride in that showed up, and it was a good mantra for us.
Now you try to parlay what momentum you take from winning that game into this one at Mercer. It's a team you rallied to knock off a couple of weeks ago. Carryover is something that, if you're going to get it, you're probably going to get it very early in the game, which would equate to a fast start, and you always hope for one of those.
No doubt. And Greg Gary does a really good job. I called them after their Sanford game and congratulated them on that. They just knocked off the number 1 team in the league at home. So they're playing really good basketball. When you play Mercer, when you play one of Greg's teams, and Greg is a Tulane graduate. I got to know him really well in my time in New Orleans. He was a feisty player as a player. He played for Perry Clark when they resurrected that program. But this about his teams: they're going to play smart, but they're going to play very physical. They're like the Purdue of the Southern Conference in that regard. They like size, they like thickness, and they really are physical. We like to view ourselves as a physical team. I think when our two teams meet, that's the physical game in the Southern Conference. There's some other teams with more skill, but I love how our teams go at each other and compete. We've had some battles. We were fortunate in the last one. Our guys know they're going to have to go through some tough screens, some elbows, some rebounds, some box outs, some diving on the floor if they want to get this win, but they'll be ready.
We always talk about, character and all those kinds of things, and confidence as that intangible. You have to have some success to believe that you're going to have some success. And there's always that fine line between, do you win so you're confident, or are you confident so you win? It's kind of a which one, the chicken and egg, I guess.
No question. It was great to see our guys get some value, some results that they were been working so hard for. But you still try to keep their minds stuck on the process. We didn't have a big celebration in the locker room afterwards. It was very joyful, grateful. But it was more like, that's who we are, and we just need to show it more often. And so it was more business-like. I'm sure our guys had a good time Saturday night, and I hope the core did, because a lot of those guys earned overnights or whatever. But no, it was it was great to see them get some results for all. They've worked so hard at practice. We have not had a day where I walked out and said, "Oh, they're not ready to work."
Yeah, and now, of course, you have the opportunity, hopefully anyway, to parlay this into another one. Why not see if you can close on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, or win 5 out of 6, whatever it is?
Hey, our fans have been great. If they can really come out and support us these last few games at home, and we've got these games on the road, like I've said, I'm not putting a number on it, but winning games at this time of year, I think we're ready to do it. We expect to. We have to play the game the right way. But if we do, more important than getting the win, it means we're playing good basketball going into that tournament in Nashville. And I think anybody can win that tournament. Everybody says that every year, but you watch this league and you see these close games. And, boy, if you can learn how to really win those close games. And that's why one thing I will say about the VMI game, I was on our guys the entire night to keep playing the right way. Work the basketball, even to the very end. We didn't jack a bunch of shots at the end and this and that, because I really want them to just keep focused on how to win close games and what we need to do in Asheville.
There are a number of guys that have walked in. A lot of players are here. A lot of Citadel brass. The athletic director, Mike Capaccio, is here. I mean, we've got like a group of Citadel royalty here in the building. My question is, how in the world do we get one of them to go over there and hop on the world-famous El Jefe mechanical bull over there?
Well, I tell you who will go on that bull. We had a party here before the year started, and they were all looking at that bull, and they were talking about it. And that night, there was a lot of people riding the bull. And I promised them, you win that tournament in Nashville, I will be on that bull, and you guys will be here. So that's what they need to do if they want to see me on that bull.
That sounds like a Monday night thing right after that win in the tournament.
No question.
Yeah, we could just do that. It'd be the first time we got to ride a mechanical bull live on radio. I think I've got a long enough headset cable.
You haven't seen it, but Roy puts the time out there on the street, so everybody walking down King Street can see your time and things like that. We'll have this place lit up that night.
Well, we're lighting it up here right now. We're at El Jefe at 468 King Street here in downtown Charleston. It's the Ed Conroy Show. I'm Brian Giffen, the radio voice of the Citadel. We talked about A.J. Smith. We'll bring A.J. up here, and we'll talk to the super sophomore, the leading scorer of the Bulldogs, after we take this time out. Right here we take it. You're listening to the Citadel Bulldogs Radio Network. Four minutes, right, Joe? the radio voice of the Bulldogs, and of course Ed Conroy in the building. He spent the first segment with us, but now the Bulldogs' leading scorer is going to sit down, that being A.J. Smith. And Coach had great things to say about you, man. It's great to get the win Saturday, first and foremost. That was one you guys waited a while for.
Right, yeah, it was just exciting to, ultimately get that win, and it was a good feeling for our locker room after we got it, too.
It's been a tough go since conference play started in a lot of respects. The team has had to overcome so much. I mean, injuries yourself, you were banged up and missed 3-4 games back around the time the conference play started. But the one thing that has stood out, AJ, through all of this is nobody's confidence, nobody's want to, nobody's desire, nobody's fight has wavered at all. You guys have been banging every game, and you're right there. You just finally found a way to get over the top.
Right. Yeah, I think we just always had that belief in each other in the locker room. It might not look like it to the outside, but we know what we have, and we know we always had enough to win. So,
well, you get the chance, too, to kind of make up for the game up at VMI, where you guys didn't everybody about that I've talked to didn't feel like that you guys played that well as a team when you played up there in Lexington and lost. You kind of got a chance to atone for that a little bit against them. It's a big rival, VMI. Just what are your thoughts on the game and the way it started? You guys got off to a good start, and you really led throughout.
Well, obviously the game up there in VMI didn't go how we wanted, so we wanted to, protect our home floor and come out with some energy and some effort and some toughness. And I think that was the emphasis in the practices before. We were ready to go out there from the tip. So.
Well, this is an interesting year for a lot of respects. I mean, it's primarily a roster of guys that are younger players. I mean, you and Madison that are here, both sophomores, but those grad guys between Q and between Winston, who's here tonight, but of course Crutches and all, those guys have had a profound influence on the rest of the roster, have they not?
Absolutely. I just put it, the fact that Winston is here tonight, this just speaks to his leadership right along with Q and Elijah. We're not necessarily an old team, but the older guys that we do have do a great job of commanding the locker room, commanding respect, and kind of leading by example.
After the Notre Dame game, when we had you on with us, we were talking a little bit about some of that. And, I mean, the chemistry on this team is really good. There's the old adage, you don't even have to be a friend to be a good teammate, but there's also the element that when you like each other and you travel on the road together and all that, there's a togetherness and a chemistry element there that helps.
Absolutely. I just think that, there's a lot of different type of personalities that come together on this team, and everybody's themselves, and it just allows us to kind of gel in our own way in the locker room and on the court.
Right. And, I mean, again, you don't have to be best buddies and everything, but the fact of the matter is that it's really this way in sports, period. You spend so much more time with your team, really, than you do family and friends and stuff like that. And I think it helps a lot when you have an element where guys like to be around each other and like to be on the same page.
Right. That's what people don't realize about sports. It's not necessarily always hard, but just that amount of time that you spend with each other makes you family. And I feel like we've kind of fostered that family network throughout the year so far. And that's kind of what's leading us to, start on the uptick, especially with our last game.
I'd like to get your thoughts a little from a perspective of on the floor about communication and how much. I mean, look, when I'm courtside broadcasting a game, I can see it, but fans up in the stands, any amount of, they can't really see and feel that communication. Could you talk a little about how important that is and how you guys communicate on the floor?
Right. Well, it starts from, our leader. Coach Conroy is always conveying things that he wants us to implement on the floor, and then it starts with our point guard as well. I think Madison does a good job of talking through literally everything, offensively and defensively, and that just trickles down on, you got Q, securing the inside the post for us, and he's a great talking influence as well, and it just kind of trickles on down the whole roster.
This is your second season here at the Citadel. I'd like to get your thoughts on this journey. Every season is kind of a journey in its own right. It's its own story that unfolds game by game, week by week. But I'd like to get your thoughts on this one. Everybody kind of knows how impactful the injuries are. Nobody's really happy with where you are standings-wise and all that stuff. But I think what doesn't get measured in all that is how much fight you guys have had, and the fact that even though it's gone tough, you've still been right there. And other than maybe 2 or 3 of these games, you've been right there in all of them.
Right. Well, obviously now we don't have the roster that we thought we anticipated at the beginning of the season. But Coach Conroy always tells us that we don't have what we had, but now we have enough. We always have enough. And I just think that has kind of resonated with us. We've lost a couple close games, but we hung tough. And I think just that stick-to-itiveness is what got us that win.
How much do you feel like you can carry some level of momentum from a game like this one that you just won? Because, again, after being so close and fighting your tails off and not getting over the top, now you finally do. And you look at, no game is easy, but you did beat this Mercer team before. You really should have gotten the second game again. So you get the idea. I mean, you could very just as easily right here be sitting here having won 4 out of 6 or whatever it is, and it's just not that way.
Right. I just think the biggest thing that people don't always see is that we're becoming more and more of a cohesive unit. out there. Through each of these practices, we just get better and better at playing together. And I think just that togetherness is what led us to that convincing win at VMI.
And you have the opportunity, to finish strong. And, we've kind of all of us have made a lot of this, but in this tournament format, you get hot and you play your best ball down the stretch, then you get into that tournament. And as everybody talked about, you want to be the team nobody wants to play. You go out there, and if you demonstrate that, then you never know where you're going to end up.
Exactly. That's true. I just think of it, I'm not too far removed from high school, so it's kind of just like AAU, almost tournament style. So you go out there and you get 4 wins in 4 days, you sit on the top of the mountain, and, nobody's going to remember, like you said, what happened before that. And I think we have a chance to do that for sure with this group of guys.
Coach was talking a little bit earlier when we brought you up to him because we were previewing what's coming up tonight. And he was talking about what a great fit you've been from the beginning here. And what was it that was special for you, culturally, otherwise, about the Citadel? When you came and visited, when you were being recruited, what was it that pushed the Citadel over the top for you and made you become a Bulldog?
Well, first of all, I love Charleston, and I have family down here, and it's a great area. But even more importantly, I just think the family aspect and the family feel from Coach Conroy to Coach Reynolds, they just made sure that I knew that I was wanted here and I was welcome here. And just knowing that you're about to go to battle with people who have your back is something that I can, hang my hat on for sure.
What goals are still out there for you that you feel like you guys can reach?
Well, realistically, I think we can win this tournament. Obviously our standings aren't where we want them to be right now, but I'm confident that whoever we face in these games coming up can, we can lead our team to victory for sure.
Well, you have this Mercer game on Wednesday. That's a team that you guys came back against and beat not terribly long ago, about 3 weeks ago. And then, of course, 2 more that are back-to-back here at home before wrapping the regular season up at Samford. It really starts Wednesday. If you're going to carry momentum, now's the time.
Right. Exactly. It's a little bit later, but you'd rather get hot right now instead of, being hot in November or December. And I think that we're just trending in the right direction. Everybody from 1 through 16 has the right attitude and mentality about what we can accomplish. And I think that starts, and that's one of the biggest things to lead to success late in March.
And now you go to Mercer, which, by the way, just knocked off Samford in their place. So they're on a bit of a high also. What did you guys do? You had to come back when you played him the last time. What was it you were able to accomplish during that comeback to get over the top? That was one where you kind of came back and snatched that one yourself at the end.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of it was just playing smart and attacking methodically, not just going down and trying to get the quickest or the shot that appeared first. I think just working the defense and kind of getting what we want and not just taking what they were giving us early.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about your experience here. And obviously, you've got a lot of time ahead of you still. You're just in your sophomore year. But now it becomes a thing where as this season winds down, we'll get closer to you being even more one of those leaders going forward in the program. What are the things that you think you've learned this year that are going to equip you as you go further in your career to be one of those, not that you're not a leader now because you are, but you know what I mean, one of those upperclassmen guys that mentor younger players and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Where are you in that process on the way there?
I think one of the biggest things for me in terms of being a leader is just, doing what I do, and practicing what I preach. Not just having lip service and telling guys what to do and not being the guy who's doing what I'm telling others to do. I know, for me, looking at a leader when I was younger, because I was just a freshman, the guys who I looked up to the most were the ones who told me to do something, and then they did it themselves. So that's just kind of what I'm trying to pride myself on while I'm becoming a leader.
What for you has been the biggest moment so far, coolest moment, most exciting moment this season?
Honestly, I'd say I don't necessarily – I got to take that back. It'd probably be the win at Notre Dame. Just the way that we kind of came together as a full unit and kind of literally defied the odds, and smashed the odds just kind of speaks to this team and the belief we have in each other. And I think that'll, we'll rely on that heavy down the stretch, and that'll, allow us to come out on top of some of these.
Isn't it funny how a play here, a play there can have so much impact in the course of a season? And what I refer to here, pointer with whatever it is, 4 seconds left to give you the lead, and then the crazy sequence of fouls back and forth. The reason I bring that up, though, is that moments like that in the course of a season, you win a game that way, where you've been behind the whole way and you kind of swipe it at the end, and then it almost gets away on fouls. Then you turn around and you win it on fouls yourself. That's the kind of thing that can carry you for a while. Right,
absolutely. It just shows that, staying solid, staying poised, and just another thing that Coach talks about is making enough plays down the stretch. Every play matters, and especially those plays down the stretch matter, like the free throws and the execution of the plays that we work on, daily through our practice are important and in terms of determining wins.
Well, so now the only thing to do left is to go out and close it off with a strong kick. I mean, look, you got 2 home games, you got 2 road games. You really, you got to go to Samford. That's going to be one of those fly trips too.
Right.
So you got a chance to maybe reel off a little momentum and get into that tournament and be dangerous.
Absolutely. I just like our chances against everybody in the league, and I trust the guys in our locker room, and I trust our coaching staff. I know we can do something special here in March.
This is the Ed Conroy Show. We broadcast live on Monday nights from El Jefe here, downtown Charleston, 468 King Street. And we appreciate you joining us on radio. We appreciate you joining us on YouTube. There's all kinds of ways to do this, man. But there's nothing quite like being here at El Jefe, right?
Right, exactly.
All right, so of all your teammates and other Citadel folks that are here, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who would you like to see on the mechanical bull over there?
I'd say... Realistically, I'd say Coach Conroy.
Yeah.
I'd love to have Coach Conroy.
Man, it's on record. He said it a little bit ago. If you guys go win that tournament, we're all going to come here, and he's going to ride the mechanical bull.
We have to do then, for sure.
So one more added may be here tonight. He may not, but we got plenty of Citadel folks in the building, and we will manage another guest and have one up here for you. We just don't know yet who it is. We'll tell you on the other side of this timeout. Back in 4 minutes with more of the Ed Conroy Show from El Jefe, presented by Cutwater Spirits, right after this. Thanks, Joe. King Street here in downtown Charleston. I'm Brian Giffen with the Citadel Sports Network, and again, this is the Ed Conroy Show. We come your way live from El Jefe, and it's presented by Cutwater Spirits. It's great to be joined by so we went into the break, Coach, and I'm like, coming up next, I don't know. I'll tell you when we get back. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when they leave people hanging at the end of a soap opera. You know what I'm getting at? No, Coach Tony Skoll, the baseball coach of the Citadel, joining us now, and obviously the season is underway. You get off to a 2-1 start in a series against St. Bonaventure. Had a chance to come out and watch the first 4 or 5 innings of that one. You got off to a great start to the season and the first game.
Yeah, Brian. First, this is my favorite night of the week. I love coming out to support Ed and support his players and his program, and it's really been a great event. I know, very appreciative for El Jefe for being such a gracious host, and it's really turned into a great Monday night every week. So, really glad to be here. Enjoy it every time, and it's nice. It's cold outside right now. So college baseball season has started, but it was a good first weekend for us. Proud of our kids. We played pretty well all weekend, to be honest with you. There was a couple innings that got away from us, but besides that, could be more pleased with just how we played.
I think you sent 12 guys to the plate in your very first at bat as a team, or first inning at bat as a team this year. That's a pretty good way to start the year.
Yeah, it's something that you really don't anticipate, obviously, but our guys are ready to go. Landon Slemp made his first start for us and set the tone, 3 up, 3 down, and then we got the bats going. So it's always nice when you put a crooked number up in the first inning, lets you sort of relax a little bit. But we really pitched well on Friday, got the offense going, and played great defense all weekend.
I had the privilege to work with a number of different people over the years in baseball, and one of them was Don Sutton. And I mean, Don Sutton was baseball royalty, but the thing about pitching, you can have anything, you can overcome anything if you got the guys in the middle of the diamond.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
It's so critical.
It is. I always say it's why that mound is a little higher than the rest of the field, because they're the most important people on the diamond, and they are, and that sets the tone. And you can't be successful without guys getting out there throwing strikes and giving you a chance to win.
What do you think of how the game has, and obviously sports evolve, it's the nature of things, and I always feel like I'm risking turning into get off my lawn guy, but what I'm getting at is some of the analytics and some of the way that stats measure things now that none of us ever really thought about before. There's so many new metrics and there's so many new stats. You hear all these things like the spin rate and exit velo and all this stuff, and sometimes I can't help but wonder, are these stats things that we really need, or are these stats that somebody made up to be more relevant?
Well, I think a little bit of both sometimes,
right.
But I think there is value to them, and we're very involved with them. I think it's great for development of players.
Right.
But the old school in me just a lot of times just says it's validation for our eyes.
Right.
When a guy's throwing really hard, we can say, hey, he's throwing hard. Well, he's actually spinning the ball 2,600 and 95 miles an hour. But you can see that with your eyes. But now we have the metrics to validate that. So it is important, and I think it gives the players a little more confidence, knowing that if they make a pitch and throw it a certain way, they're going to have a huge percentage to be successful.
Right. And honestly, I don't downplay it as much as I'm waiting to see where they come up with a way to use those kinds of things to measure heart and leadership and being clutch and being a guy who can carry a team on his shoulders through a big series.
Well, I think that's never going to be available. That's going to always be in the manager's gut,
right,
and the coach's gut, and the player's heart. So, we there's no way to measure that kind of stuff, and those intangibles are what we're all looking for as coaches in every sport. But the game has evolved, and as a coach, and I like to consider myself an old school guy, but if you don't evolve with it, you're going to get left behind.
Right.
So I got some younger assistants that make me feel dumb sometimes, but they're very good at that stuff, and they keep us on the up front with it.
And I'll give you a great example. I mean, honestly, and I'm not downplaying it because I'm just from the same school as you, where I've worked in the game a long time before a lot of that stuff got talked about. But Brian Snitker, that manages the Atlanta Braves, part of the reason that he's had so much success there, and yes, they've got really good players and they've done a really good job, but those guys love to play for him. They would run through a wall for that guy every single day, and that matters. That matters.
No doubt. Coaching, running a business, it's all about relationships with your players or your employees, and that's something that we put a lot of stake in our program. We have great kids. It's easy to like them. They do a lot of things right, but for me as a coach, I love to compete, love to win. Love everything about it, but it's ultimately about those relationships with your guys.
I'm really looking forward to broadcasting these games. So I broadcast games for 13 years, but then I also kind of worked in like an executive producer, an engineer type of role where I wanted to be down in the front call, and I'm like 5 feet from where I want to be, but I'm behind it running mixes of the games. So it's been a while since I've gotten to do this, and I'm pretty fired up to get out there and call these games.
Well, we'll be glad to have you out there. I think we've got an exciting group. We got some great players, great kids, and great stories amongst our roster. So I think it's going to be an exciting year, and we're excited to get going.
So it's coming out to the ballpark the other day, first opportunity at Joe P. Riley Ballpark that I had to be there. What kinds of things do they do during Citadel games, promotionally and otherwise? I mean, nowadays it's always game presentation stuff. There's always stuff going on in these ballparks at all levels.
Yeah, our marketing department does an unbelievable job of keeping people entertained in between innings. I don't see a lot of it because obviously I'm sort of locked into busy. The game. But it's a great park. It's a great atmosphere for young kids. All the parents out there that have young children come to the park. We let them run the bases on Sundays. We're very accessible to our fans and especially to the young people in our community. I love for our players to be around them. They can sign autographs, shake hands, spend time with them before and after the game. So it's a special place. We're blessed to play in a beautiful ballpark, and it's a great atmosphere.
So much has been made, media-wise the last couple of years, in particularly basketball and football, just because of all the changes in the game between the NIL stuff and the transfer portal stuff. How do those elements, obviously everybody is involved to some degree and having to deal with whatever aspects of that. How has it affected you guys, and how does it affect you?
Well, it's hit college baseball just as hard as it's hit football, basketball, and the other sports. We're playing Charleston Southern tomorrow, and they have 35 new players on a 40-man roster. So it's, I think what it's done in college athletics, in order to be successful, you have to be old. You have to have older players.
Right.
You got to have experience. So I think that's changed. And then obviously you're constantly recruiting and re-recruiting your own players. So that makes it tough as well, especially being a mid-major school. If we have good players, there's going to be Power 5 schools that want our players, and that's tough. That's really tough. So I'm afraid the toothpaste is out of the tube. I don't like it. But it's the world we live in now, and we got to deal with it the best we can.
I feel, look, again, at the risk of sounding like get off my lawn guy, I mean, I don't know how good it is for the game, whichever game it is, until somebody gets a handle around it so that it can't just become a wider gap between haves and have-nots. I think in football that's very apparent. That's already the case, but it's only going to become more so as we go forward here with the current structure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You're going to have a dozen teams or maybe less that have a chance to win championships, national championships in each sport. They're going to do that in basketball. I think it's already like that in football.
Right.
And it's going to get that way in baseball with the NIL and the portal. Teams just keep reloading. So I think eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be the top 30, 40, 50 programs in the country are going to separate. They're going to make their own rules, do their own things, and then hopefully that'll leave the rest of us to sort of maybe get back to some normalcy.
Well, and I've just kind of felt like, and it really stood out with football just because of how wide the gap is between. So if you've got 135, 140, FBS level teams, in theory, to have 120 of them be completely irrelevant before they've ever even opened a fall camp and sweated the first drop, I just don't see how it's good for the game.
Well, it isn't. I don't think it is. But, you just get to this point where, the Pandora's box is opened.
Right.
And there's no going back right now. You can't take this money and this thing for the kids. And the kids, they deserve it. They deserve to be rewarded. But we've got to get some transparency behind it. We've got to get some kind of regulation. And once we have a little bit of rules, at least a border, a parameter of what you can and can't do, then I think it'll all sort of clean itself up.
Yeah, and in an ideal world, of course, it'll turn out to where it's all for the better and the players do get a little bit more of what they generate for college athletics and all that stuff. But it also, we need to somebody needs to keep an eye on the rearview mirror or wherever it is on keeping the playing field semi-level. That's all.
No doubt about it, because it is an arms race right now. And, you hear in these collectives and these programs, they're raising millions and millions of dollars just for NIL, not for facilities necessarily, not for recruiting. It's for NIL. So that definitely is going to create a talent gap amongst the haves and the have-not.
Well, really appreciate you coming over and hanging out with us. So it'll be later March that we'll start broadcasting games. So we're really looking forward to telling the stories and being a part of a great season.
Well, we're looking forward to having you. Come out anytime you want before then. Come down to the dugout, get to know the guys.
Yeah.
It's very blessed. Coach a wonderful group of kids, and we're excited about what the season has to offer.
That is Tony Skoll, the head baseball coach at the Citadel, spending time with us here. This is the Ed Conroy Show, presented by Cutwater Spirits, and we're live at El Jefe. We are here at 468 King Street in downtown Charleston. Do this every Monday, so if you're not here, you certainly can come next Monday, or we always appreciate having you along on radio or YouTube, for that matter. We will be back with more, I promise. After this, you're listening to the Citadel Bulldogs Radio Network. Great. Show. We're at El Jefe at 468 King Street here in downtown Charleston. Brian Giffen, the radio voice of the Bulldogs, along with Ed Conroy, the head basketball coach. And, Coach, we've kind of bounced around a little bit. Had Tony over here talk a little baseball. We had AJ up here talking about everything basketball. And obviously now the focus turns to Mercer. We leave for Mercer tomorrow, and you will take on the Bears on Wednesday night at 7. What kind of a place, what kind of atmosphere is Hawkins Arena?
Well, I tell you, I think they do a great job with their game atmosphere, and I'm sure now after they beat Sanford, the number 1 team in the league, huge win for them on Saturday, I'm sure that place will be really going. And every time we've been there, it just seems like that whole atmosphere, arena, students, everybody are really into it. So we expect a really tough game, like I alluded to earlier, physical, big bodies, banging. You're going to have to be a man, and then grind through some possessions early, if you will. Find a way to get that ball inside. We've got to touch the post with Q and Madison and AJ. One of the things we always try to do, we try to have positional size, and we have that with AJ and Madison and those guys. They've got to get some post-ups. If we don't do that, if we give in, and what they did to us early last time, they got out to a big lead at McAllister. They were so physical with us when we were dribbling the ball or passing the ball or cutting that we just kind of settled for some shots. We've got to fight through that physicality and impose our will on them and get what we want. If we do that, I think I told you this last time we played them, but at the end of the night, if we've been to the free throw line 25 times or more, we've probably been patient enough, physical enough that we're going to win that game. And I think in that game we got there a bunch. But that's what we need. We need a 25 or 30 free throw attempts in that game. We've got to be physical. We've got to be ready to go from the start. But it should be a great game.
I've never worked with or known a coach that didn't feel ahead of every game that it's important you get off to a good start. But that has been a thing this year where in a lot of these conference games you guys have not gotten off to great starts, but you have fought your way back into games. That kind of makes a really good start to the game. First 15, 20 minutes of the game, maybe not even game minutes, but just clock minutes just to get going.
Yeah.
This seems like a really important facet.
It really is. And I would tell our fans, like when you watch us play, in the future, I would anticipate, and we always have, we've always had a team that is more adept at maybe shooting the three, a little more skilled on the perimeter doing that. Right now, year 2 of the program, we're not quite there yet. Obviously, Elijah having a great year from 3. AJ's really improved his shot. Colby McAllister gave us a lift last game off the bench from 3. But our game is more about really physicality, getting in the paint, getting to that free throw line. Well, the first 6 fouls, you don't shoot those free throws.
Right.
And so if we get off to a good start and we're even, but we're drawing those fouls and we're not ahead, but we're even, we're actually winning that game because we get to the free throw line. We're the number 4 team in the country in getting to the free throw line. That's out of 363 teams. So we do that extremely well. We do that at an elite level, but you don't always see the payoff early in the game. So if we're close or even while we're doing that, like we're actually winning that half. And that's why we have to be intentional to start each half. Now, if we're down by 10 and you see the other team only has 2 or 3 fouls, that's not a good sign.
Right.
And we need to refocus and figure out a way to do it.
Last thing for you, we only got a couple of minutes here, but if you had to identify one thing you need to do better as a team down the stretch here to really make this happen, finish strong and get in the tournament and make some noise, what's that one thing you'd have to do better?
I think if you see our assist total go up, and watching the game against VMI, we had 4 assists, I think, in the first 2 or 3 minutes. You see that number rise, that means we're starting to understand how to read the game, make the play the game tells us to make, as opposed to trying to just drive in there and create something. If we're sharing that basketball, we're going to become a better basketball team.
Well, we're going to find out. We start Wednesday. We will leave to go to Mercer tomorrow. That, of course, is a 7 o'clock game at Mercer on Wednesday. We'll have pregame coverage on radio at 6:30, and then the call with Mercer at 7 o'clock. And then you come back-to-back home games, and then just the air trip to Sanford, and then that tournament's here.
We're getting down there. I would encourage fans to do a couple things. 1, really come support us at home. 2, Asheville's a great time. So come out to that tournament.
Right.
There's very few of those left in the country, and it's a great weekend. But lastly, I want to say thank you. Our fans have been terrific. And just like the turnout here tonight, we have 2 more of these radio shows. 1 here, 1 at Dunleavy's on March 4th. Love to have you come down. It's a phenomenal thing. We got the baseball coach here tonight, football coach on his way. Half our team is here. It's just our athletic director's here. It's a lot of fun. You get a chance to meet everybody here and really spend some quality time. And we appreciate all of you so much. Love to have you come out.
Ed Conroy Show is presented by Cutwater Spirits. Our thanks to everybody at El Jefe. Thanks to all of you for joining us, be it on radio, be it on YouTube, or out here in person. We love you guys as much or more than all.
Do I have 10 seconds?
Absolutely.
All right, let me get them going here. We'll get a little CITA going for here. We can hear it on the air.
All right, so he's going to get that going, Joe. I promise. He's doing that right now.
Hey, Mike. 2. Let's go. C-I-T-A-D-E-L. C-I-T-A-D-E-L.
All right. No better place to hear it than the coach himself. And that'll do it for the Ed Conroy Show tonight. We're having more fun than human beings should be allowed to have. And that'll about do it. Our thanks to Joe Mack back in the studio as well. Our thanks to Ryan Alardi, who, as always, coordinates things for us on the media side. And our thanks to all of you joining us again, be it radio, be it YouTube, or here at El Jefe. We will look forward to talking to you Wednesday when the Bulldogs take on Mercer. Pre-game coverage begins at 6:30 right here on 102.1 FM The City. And for now, I'm Brian Giffen from El Jefe saying, so long, everybody, and go Dogs.